Hello there, and welcome to my little arty corner here on YouTube. I'm Angela Porter, and it's Sunday the 28th of May. I have to get a bit of a push on with a new book I've got to do. Still, I know, procrastination is us here often, but I always manage to come through, which is all that matters. So, it's been a cloudy but sunny day here, and it's been rather warm. We've had some lovely weather over the past few days, and there's been tons of stuff. Lots of things going on that have meant that I've not been able to make a video for a few days. But I am here, and I have some things to show you and talk about briefly to begin with. And I will talk about things first because I never quite know how far I'm going to get when it comes to creating artwork for you. Now on the top here you can see there's a piece of paper, and this paper is about 9.5 centimetres wide by 21 centimetres tall. That is 8 1/4. 10 centimetres is, I don't know. Have I got a ruler? I haven't got a ruler with inches on. I'll try and remember to put the conversion in the thing. I think it's 4 inches-ish, just a bit short of 4 inches. So it's twice as tall as it is wide, I think. I'm going to be using that. It's Canson Imagine mixed media paper, which is my current favourite. Now this is a drawing I did in the week. Hang on, let me get the autofocus lock on. Forgot to do that first, didn't I? There we go. And I started it with the intention of completing it entirely. And then I had a major crisis when I really mucked up the inner bits, decided to add some gold over the top, and then thought, oh, I'll add some dots around the edge because I went over the black. Not a good idea. And I wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't that fussed on the colour here, though I did love the colours of these sort of stony looking things. I'll tell you about that in a moment. So, colours I used here were Inktense, and the original colours here, and with all the other bits, these round bits, were Inktense as well. And they were lovely. The colours are lovely. And they still are lovely. Here. And there. That bit, no. Wrong choice of colours. Some of them are the 2023 release of Inktense new colours. There's 24 in the set, so I splurged and bought them. And they are a lovely addition, I have to say. They fill in some gaps. Some I may not use very much, but I've got them if my tastes in colour change. And yesterday I was looking for gold ink because I've got dip pens, you know, nib dip pens that you dip into the ink with nibs that you can change over. And I can't find. I tried gold acrylic ink. I got Liquitex, and it's liquid gold acrylic ink, and it just doesn't flow from the nib. And I can't find the little pot I've got of JB Herbin ink. I've put it somewhere safe. Who knows where safe is at the moment? I couldn't find it, but I've ordered some calligraphy gold ink as well as some. I think it's the Winsor & Newton sort of like Indian inks, permanent inks. Can't remember the name of them. To try, but they won't be here until later in the week. But I also bought myself, I really did. I've been hankering after them since I first heard about them and had a look. And it's the Kuretake Gansai Tambi. It comes in a box like this. So cute. It's so cute. I think there's 24 colours. Yeah. And they're the most lovely colours because it's the Art Nouveau set, it's called. And these are all colours that are very reminiscent of the Art Nouveau art period. They look wonderful and lovely there, but they show their true colours. I did some quick swatches in the box lid, which is always a nice place to do them because I won't lose them. And they're lovely. They really remind me of Art Nouveau and some arts and crafts with those more muted tones, the less vibrant, the more sort of like slightly greyer tones. And I'm absolutely loving them. These are watercolours, but they're not like Western watercolours. They're a bit thicker in consistency, and they also are less translucent. They're not as opaque as gouache, however you want to pronounce it. Gouache is how I know it. And I just loved the colours and wanted to see. So here, this little section here and this little bit there are pure Kuretake, the Gansai Tambis. And I haven't used, you know, I've got to learn how much paint to pick up, how much not to, and how much I need to wash it out. But there's some blends of colours here and in other places, and you can see these lovely colours. Now, because I'm using this now as a testing space for things, I thought, I like that, I do like this, but I wonder what will happen if I do an underpainting of the shadows. This is what I did here. So this one and this little section, and I'll zoom in for you. Look. This section and these ones here, where it says 1 in all of them. See, I've numbered them so I know which is which. Well, in that case. These have got the sepia. I used sepia ink Inktense underneath. I used Inktense because I don't want the colour to move. I want it to remain, the shadow, I want it to remain where I put it. And Inktense is permanent when it's dry. The Kuretake Gansai are translucent to semi-opaque, possibly opaque if you use very little water. But I used it sort of like enough to give a decent colour. And you can see the shadow popping through. How did I work that out, that could happen? Because I tried some of the Kuretake on top of these to check, because some of these were just one colour. And I thought, well, let's have a look and see what happens. And with ones over here where I'd messed up, I did a lot of messing. Well, to my mind, I messed up. I'd put a darker Inktense with a lighter one there. And I thought, okay, then let's see what happens. So I put some, and I thought, oh, it doesn't cover it up. Yay! Marvellous. So I thought I'd experiment with that, and I'm quite happy with it. I use sepia ink because I thought vintage, oldie worldy, bit grungy, and it works nicely. But I could choose any colour, and it could be that I choose colours that go with any particular colours to give that darker tone underneath. So, because I'm not very good with watercolours that can be re-wetted, and on this paper, these do re-wet and move again very easily, and it's not even watercolour paper. I know different people have found different things, but I really, 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 I'll zoom back out. I really, really, really do like the colour palette. Even the browns and neutrals I like. I do. Could this be me cracking watercolours at last? Possibly, because I could end up using them in quite a flat way, like Arts and Crafts and Art Nouveau is, rather than getting a lot of patterns in, but we'll see how it goes and what happens. So this is my practice paper now. It's something else to be kept, like my colour palettes and so on as reference. Oh, I have got a, look at that. You don't think I was looking very carefully. I've got a ruler here that's in inches. So how wide is this? No, it's not in inches, it's just centimetres. Do I have does Angela have her glasses on, you're asking? No, I don't. I haven't got a clue. Right, so I've set this up. I've drawn using a ruler. This is about 1 centimetre, about 1.5 centimetres. I've got no idea what that is in inches, but you know, it just looks about right. So 1 centimetre on either side, top and bottom, 1.5 centimetres, and I'm going to turn it on its side. Because I can, and because there's a very good chance you'll see what I'm doing rather well. With this, I really want to put the bones of a pattern in, add colour, then work on the top. Okay? Yeah. So, I want to leave enough space that I can get my brush tip, because I noticed in some of these, there wasn't much space in the places and I was having trouble getting my brush tip in, and the paint does dull the ink down a little bit, so it means a lot of redrawing, and I know what I'm like when I redraw lines. The answer is not very good, so let me zoom in. Won't get to see all the paper, but hopefully I can keep myself in place. Okie doke, so this is going to be quite intuitive art, but no doubt I'm going to end up adding Zentangle-y style art. It's got a bit close there, but I think that will be okay. Looks a bit like a fish. But this is one of my favourite shapes at the moment. Now that's interesting how that comes out almost horizontal. I like that. It's almost like we've got a collar behind it. So I'm going to mirror it on the other side. I'm having to be careful how I sit, and I think I better put my chair down a bit. Excuse the noise. That's better. I've got problems with my shoulder again and around my ribs. I don't know what I've done to provoke the pain and the ache. It's nowhere near as bad as it was, but it's uncomfortable. And I really don't want to end up in the situation I was back in November, December. Screaming agony, in other words. So I'm trying to work at a position and in ways that are comfortable for me and my shoulder and the ribs to be at. I have got a slope I can work on, and that's brilliant, but I can't get it underneath the camera, or the camera as it is. I may need something to stand the camera on and hope that it's stable, but that's something I'm going to have to explore and look at when I'm ready to shift and move things around again. So there's another one of these lovely shapes. I do love these shapes. They often turn into eyes in my drawings, which is a bit freaky, and I don't realise I've drawn them as eyes until I stop and look and I go, oh, eyes again. Okay. We will endeavour not to turn them into eyes today. Okay. So I'm trying to leave fairly big spaces. I will just divide the big space up into smaller areas, because I do like to do this. I'm sort of almost drawing a letter Y, weird Ys, but Ys. And oh, I just dragged the nib across there, got a bit close. So that's becoming a bit of an issue at the moment for me, my shoulder, my back. But I find that if I cocoon myself on the bed with pillows behind me, I'm quite comfortable to draw there. It's when I sit at a desk or where I can lean over things, that's when it really hurts. And I suspect that's how I managed to pull or damage the muscles and ligaments. To take my top off because I've just suddenly got extremely warm. Oh, God. Tell you what, age don't come by itself. It's that time of life where I'm getting hot flushes. That one was totally unexpected as well. It's normally in the evening I get them. This one I'm going to try something a bit different. Well, I'm not trying everything here. I don't know what I'm trying or doing. I'm just doing. So instead of having this going back round there, I think I'll have this line or these lines going like this. I haven't got anything almost like a spiral here yet, and I do love a spiral. Now this may not be quite spiral shaped, but I like this for nesting them. And this is nesting. I'm calling it nesting. I don't care if anybody else calls it that. Like nesting dolls or baskets where you stack them, they go one inside the other, or one outside, from small to big. That's quite nice. I like this shape here, and I think I will fill it with a circle. That's a big enough circle I can do. I'm going to try not to do circles smaller than that. or too much smaller than that, because I think I'll add any details like that afterwards with pens. And I may not use black pen. Now that would be venturing into uncharted territory, maybe. So most of my coloured fine liners, they're water soluble, so I couldn't use them to begin with. Oh, the Kuretake Zig writers, I think they're called Zig writers. They are pigment markers, and they are kind of they're permanent, waterproof, archival. Let's have a look. Here we are. We've got a gem or something in here, and in typical Angela fashion, if I'm splitting, oh, I haven't split that one up. Look at that. Quite nice. It's almost like roots of a tree or a plant there. In fact, I might do that here because that's quite a big space, and this one is as well, so I'm going to bring that back that way. There we are. It makes some nice interesting shapes now. I'm going to do the same here, but I'm really swooshing that around completely. I'm not sure I like that, but it is what it is. I can always add another line later. Part of me is thinking perhaps I should have left those blank, but this way it gives me the option of either colouring them all in one colour or splitting the sections up. And so, let's have a look. So here, I'm going to have these going like this. I guess it's a bit like Senna, the Zentangle pattern, but I'm not starting from an S shape or a point. I'm just using these swooping lines with these thicker bits at the bottom. I'm going to swoop that one round there because I can then put one in between. Yeah, it's a little bit thin there, but I'll work with that. If I have to get a jar of water out to use a fine paintbrush, I will, rather than my water brush. I'm trying to keep this edge kind of straight and neat. I say kinda. Trying to think what else has been going on this week. Not a lot really. I've just been out of sorts. It's been warm. I've been not irritable or grumpy, but just feeling a little bit on the meh side, you know, lacking energy and oomph, and just wanting quiet time and gentle time and just relaxing into drawing. I've been doing, I think I might have said it, I've been doing a lot of intuitive art, which this is, where I just trust my instincts and just trust where the pen is going to go. And although I think I make a mixture of decisions and just letting it flow as it needs to, but I'm going to draw my edge in here. Deliberately wobbly line. Some little wobbles in there. Then if you accidentally make a wobble, it looks deliberate. That's all. And there's nothing wrong with little wobbly lines to define a space. Not as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure I'm not the only one who does that. So intuitive art is one of my particular loves. I tend not to plan a lot of artwork out. I find that if I start to plan it out, it tends to go a bit wrong, or I change it anyway. So if I do a sketch and I redraw the sketch, then it changes. And that's what I tend to do for colouring books when I'm working for somebody else. If it was me, chances are I'd just do it in this kind of way, because this is my kind of art anyway. It's my main style. Call it entangled, but it's abstract intuitive art. Without reference to patterns, although, you know, Zentangle patterns and others will come out because they're stored in my hoard of patterns, my visual memory, as it were. My library of patterns in my subconscious that I draw upon. I draw upon. No, I don't draw upon them. Well, I do. That was not a pun I intended. In fact, it's odd for me to actually recognise I've made a pun. Yeah, I have issues with things like that at times. That's better. That seems to finish that off. It was looking a bit odd sticking out there all on its own. So I literally do just work here with however I feel I need to create things. And whatever comes from my pen, I work with it. So I think it's the initial strokes of the intuitive bit, maybe, more than any other. No idea why I've drawn that shape, but it's happened, so we work with it. So I'm going to curl around it, create that shape there. Should have drawn my line in along here first. Hang on, let's do that all the way around. It does mean if I do this, I don't have that opportunity to let things flow outside this frame I'm drawing. But to be honest with you, I'm quite fine with that. Because if it's there, it's there. If it's not there, then I have that option, so I'm fine with it for now. There'll always be another drawing where I can just let it flow out. There we go. So that's that done. Okay, so that's a bit of an odd shape, but it's okay. We'll work with it and we'll get it all nicely sorted out. So with this one, I just went round this shape here and echoed it here, or nested a line on the outside. I like that term, nested. I think it's nesting season now. I could be wrong. But I like how that seems to bend. Adding shadow in the dip here will really help it. Okay, so this section here needs a bit of interest because it's looking a bit big and clunky. So I'll just add another line for now. Maybe I'll add some sections in just using straight lines. I could use, oh, that one's slightly bent, which is fine. In fact, I might put a third one there. I can hear music. I think there must be something going on in the local town park. We've got a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, which means it's a long weekend. So many people don't go to work on Monday. We've had quite a few this year for one reason or another. A few extra in the last year. And this one I'm going to keep as it is. In fact, I might just pop on there. Don't know if you can see, I'm sort of staggering the lines so that they don't meet up. I don't want them to look like they're meeting up. That one does a bit, but I can't do anything about that now. Just pop one in there. And perhaps I could put one just in there. That'll work. So I don't want this one to appear shattered, as it were. I'm going to leave that there as the outside boundary, ribbon, layer, border. Border is the word I'm looking for. I got there. Okay, this is going to be a lovely place to nestle in another circular shape. Again, I do like to put borders around them. Oh, we haven't reached half an hour of the video yet. That's good. adding patterns is what takes the time, you know. So I am going to add another one around here. There we go. Then this one, I'm going to crack this one kind of. Some tiny spaces here, but I'll work with that when I get there. I quite like that. Even though I said I was going to put lines in afterwards, I fancy having that mix of colours in these borders. This here is calling to me to do something. I'm going to do that. I'll do one on the other side and I'll talk you through it again. I'll talk you through it so you can see what I've done. You'll notice I'm adding little bits of ink to where lines meet. Okay, so I'm going to go up, I'm going to go around so I get like a letter C. And I'm going to come back with a bit of a bulbous shape on the end, and then I'm going to follow this round. I've left a gap between this and this. In fact, I've left it a bit too big here, but I will show you. So what I'll do then is I'll just carry that on. But because this is such a big space, I can actually go in and into the space and draw a smaller version of that shape almost. It's not identical, but it'll do. And it just breaks that space up then. It's always a way to fix things. And if you don't tell somebody, well, I didn't actually intend it to, I expected it to end up like that one, but it didn't. You just work with it and people assume that's what you wanted to draw. Honestly, never point your mistakes out. I've learnt that one. Possibly. If you don't point your mistakes out, people don't look at them. You know they're there, yes, or what you think are mistakes, but to other people they may not be mistakes. Okay, so I can't remember what I was wittering about. Okay, so here I'm going to put something that's almost like sun rays in here. Something really simple to split an area up. I do want to leave some areas open, otherwise this will end up being very dense in line work. And I want to leave spaces where I can go back and add pattern if I wish, or texture, or a bit of both. So that will do there, though what I'm going to do is, if I'm going to do that, I may as well split them up in some way. Like so is quite fun. So essentially I'm creating almost like leaves, top and bottom here. Almost. It just splits these spaces up in an interesting manner, I think. And there's lots of opportunity for doing things like this as well. I guess it depends how fussy you want to be if you're going to add colour or pattern or texture. Me, I like fussy. There we go, that'll do quite nicely, though. That'll be quite nice. I was really happy I think it was this week, that Harry Potter films have appeared on Netflix. All of them, including the Grindelwald ones, or you know, Dumbledore and Grindelwald and so on. So I'm really happy about that. So I've been watching them every now and again. Even though I've watched them so often, I'm in them. And downloaded some new audiobooks to do with forensic science and forensic psychology and such. So I started listening to one which are the memoirs of a scientist who was a crime scene, they call him like director or whatever, was in charge of looking at the evidence, what evidence needs to be collected, and focusing collecting it all together, and making sure the experts and things were there. And so far it's been really interesting. So audiobooks are great because I can listen to them and draw at the same time. Okie doke, so I am going to put a lovely big arc in here. Which is kind of like an arch. I've got this going on in here. I don't know what I want to do with that, but I think I'm going to leave it empty for now because I can then, once I've added colour, I can decide. And with this one, I'm going to have something coming off like that. Yeah, there's a fair bit of black here. That's okay. I've got lots of black in other places, so it'll work out fine. So let's just put a nesting line on the outside. That'll work, I think. Somebody's going to say, what pen are you using? It's a Micron PN. Yeah, not my fountain pens. So just needed a change. I do every now and again. So let me have a look. Come back and work that one out in a moment. I do want some nice swirly or some interesting shapes and patterns, and I want some open areas, I said, so let's go with some S-shaped lines to create a border here. And then what I might do, start here. I'm going to cross this way so I can split these areas up in a slightly different way, which is fun. Okay, so I don't want to have this to take up all this space because it gets a bit repetitive. I want to add other things there. I think I will go under here. And that's nice because that little bit there is part of the ribbon. And I do need to do something here, but I think I know what I'm going to do. That'll be good. So my week has been pleasantly uninteresting, if that makes sense. Can I say that? Pleasantly quiet and creative more than anything. And I've needed that as well. I've had some people-y times in the last couple of weeks, and sometimes I need a break from peopling. So I think I'll need to go out, not tomorrow because it's bank holiday, it'd be crazy. I need to put something here, I think, because this looks a bit strange. It doesn't feel right here, so just put a curved line in here. And yet that little bit there's a little bit smaller than perhaps I'd like. Well, the two are, this one and then this one, but I'll be fine with that because it just feels that that area has just been broken up into a more interesting shape. That looks good. I like that. And here I want something that is totally unlike this, but I think I'm going to fill this with colour and then I'll draw a pattern on the top of it. Now then, shapes like this I'm just going and rounding these a little bit there. I quite like to give them a kind of edge. This will actually give me an opportunity to make this feel as if this part is above, or if this is above, if that makes sense. So it's sort of like a torn paper or a torn edge almost. We might have this area and all of this area at different levels. That comes down to shadow or colour use. Okay, do I want to put a second border in there? I think I might. I like to keep areas separate, areas of pattern or shape design, whichever you want to call it, separate by using borders in that kind of way, or edges, ribbons, whatever. Okay, so here I think I might bring some down like that. Again, that'll be fun to fill with a pattern. And over here I've got this big long space here which I could leave, but I do think I'd like to do something here. Okay, this begs, my brain says, for a teardrop shape. And I will put an inner border like that. And I'm going to add an outer one on this side and that side. Just fill that in black there. Some ink there, some ink at the top there and here. Do I want to add another one of these? I think I do. See, I'm thinking now, so it's become less intuitive. And that's where, if I start thinking about things, and it may be because I'm talking while I'm doing it, that my thinking brain kicks in and says, yeah, you want to do this. And I go, afterwards I go, why did I listen to my thinking brain? It don't look too bad. It's not too shabby. I need another circular shape because I've got those scattered throughout this, and that's the kind of motif that ties it together in a weird and wonderful way. I'll put one round here, and I want to find a way to connect them. Now there is what's the Stentangle pattern called? It's named after an artist. Can't remember. Excuse me. It's where you draw random shapes on a page and then you connect them with straight lines. I could do that, but I think I'm tempted to draw them or connect them with kind of blocks instead of. Again, these will just give me that little bit more space to add colour and perhaps some more pattern in later on. And it may involve me drawing things in black. Oh, my other sort of like work that I started, a long thin one or small one, adding colour to. I haven't finished it. I got sidetracked. I tend to do that. So part of me thinks, well, Angela, why do you colour when you don't really like it? I think it's because I'm trying to encourage myself to do so. And I think it's about time that I started offering my artworks for sale. So if I'm going to do that, I need to practice things. I mean, digital art is great for me, but it's not the same as a physical piece of art, is it? Possibly. I don't know. So setting prices for artwork is going to be a nightmare because I just don't know how to do it or what to do. And yeah, I know I can Google, it still makes no sense to me. Gee, that looks quite nice. So he's going to tell me in the comments, aren't you? What's the name of the tangle pattern that you connect things? My head's gone fuzzy now. Right, now then, is there anything else I want to split up? I like that. I like that even though I haven't got many connecting bits, I like the way that things are connected. Perhaps I'll just put a couple down here as well. I know there's only two there. The small one just there, that'll be fine. And perhaps I can do the same here. There's a very skinny one on the end, and there'll be another skinny thin one here. Oh, I've now got hiccups. Great. Oh, I know, I was planning on making a video yesterday, but my neighbours decided to do it yourself, so I had hammering, banging, sawing and stuff for most of the day. And then in the afternoon I was waiting deliveries. And I knew if I started they'd turn up, and they did. What can I say? So that's why there wasn't a video yesterday, but I'm trying to get into a rhythm and a pattern here. Okay, so I've got no idea what I'm doing here, other than I'm doing this. Makes an interesting connection, doesn't it? That's what these are really. They're connecting one element of the design to another through the empty space. I love to create this art. It makes me smile and it makes me happy when I do. And I think my art, this kind of art, speaks more to what goes on inside me than anything else. Let me move that over so you can see. And it's more about me than other aspects of art. I mean, I love doing whimsical and the doodle worlds and Zentangle, but this really speaks to me because it comes from within me. It comes without thought, it just comes with feeling or inspiration from within. And it's my comfort art, it's what I go to. Sometimes I don't feel it has any value because it seems to be so easy for me to do. And then I think, oh, well, perhaps it is just a doodle. But the answer is it's not. There's more to it than that. I literally do feel my way through these things. Okay, so I want to use my Kuretake paints, but I think I may use an Inktense pencil. I will zoom back out. Look at this. I treated myself to a thing that will... We are all the way out. A case to keep all my Inktense pencils in because I was getting frustrated not being able to find the ones I wanted. Chinese ink, Payne's grey. And I actually know where all the colours are mostly in there, even the new ones. I'll put those out the way as well. Payne's grey. So I'm going to do just some of the bigger sections, I think. And I'm looking where I want the shadow. So here, the shadow would be really nice. Just there. And perhaps some. I do want to put a fair amount of shadow under here, I think, because that then will give us that feeling that this is further away. So I'm putting a fair amount of Payne's grey down here. And I have got my water brush and I have got some tissue at hand, kitchen towel. And I will zoom back in for you now. You can see where the Payne's grey is now. I've got some up here. So I'm just going to, hopefully this water will start to flow. Particularly want some down the edges, I think. I'll just give it a squeeze so some more water comes out. So warm here, this is drying so quickly. Perhaps that's a good thing. Because I'll then work, you know, I'll leave what I've got and work with that. Just put a little bit there. It's very subtle around the edges. It'll be quite nice. that's starting to give some shadow there. I don't want it too intense, she says, going to this one, which is likely to be quite intense, because I want this to feel that we have got depth here, that we are dropping down to a different layer. So I know I'm going to have to use a fair amount of grey here. But remembering this colour does dry paler than it was. So that will do. That looks okay. It's quite smooth. Alright, so I think I'll do some of these for you. And I am going to put Payne's Grey in the top of these, like so. It's going to be interesting because I've got tops on both sides, so perhaps at each end where they connect, that would make sense then. So only little areas, so I'm only putting a little bit down. And my hand is still quite heavy with this, because I know that when it's wet I can always pick it up with a damp brush and wipe it off on the paper towel here. So I'm just going to blend this out a little, clean my brush off before I go on to the next one, so I can keep the colour pretty, you know, keep the actual section not too dark. So, and automatically it looks like that is springing upwards, doesn't it? It's got to do with the shape of the pieces, that they are. That's a better way of doing it, Angela. There's so little Inktense that it's not going to dull the ink down. But wider where they're lighter, so it really does give that appearance that they're bending or, you know, going upwards. This is going to be interesting because I need to make sure I get the shadows here following kind of shape that I want as it bends, I suppose. And it's not so critical, in fact it's not going to work. I think I'll keep it fairly straight. You see this side is quite larger, it's got a longer kind of shadow, but that's okay. Just used a clean brush there and picked some of it up, and I remember that if I just squiggle along the edge, it'll make the edge less straight and a bit more random. Again, just wiping some of that colour off as I go. I do want to activate all of the Inktense that I've put down, so it won't reactivate when I add the Kuretake on top. I could use Inktense, but I'm quite keen to use the Kuretake. I love both. Well, put it this way, I had a little play with the Kuretake. They only arrived this afternoon, just a couple of hours before I started filming. And I had to have a look at them because it's taken me quite a while to decide whether I'm going to splurge on them, having declared that, nope, I'm done with watercolour, I'm done with water-soluble media, says she, using Inktense here. So that's worked really well, I think. Don't know if you agree. Now I've got to work out which way is up. Actually, it doesn't matter which way is up or down. I'll just put some shadow right the way around the inside of each of these bits here. But where they overlap, I'm definitely going to put shadow and perhaps a little bit more. So the same there, a bit more there, here a little bit around the outside, and then here where it goes under the edge of this frame, I'll put a fair amount there. So let's have a look, let's get this all activated and moving around. So I'm moving my brush in little circles here so that we're tickling the Inktense, picking it up, and then I can just move this out a little bit and back in, just with the water. And even though it's slightly discoloured with grey, when it dries you'll barely notice that greyness. If I can get there and just keep the middle area quite white, will be good. bearing in mind I am going to add highlights with white gel pen or even with metallics. As well as having the Kuretake Gansai, I ordered some Jacquard Lumiere acrylic paints in 2 shades of gold, because I find I use gold. And I ordered a set of Arteza metallic acrylic paints as well, and just to see what they work like. Because say the Liquitex paint is fantastic, or ink is fantastic, but I was thinking about, I've got calligraphy inks on the way, a calligraphy ink which will be water soluble. I've got a permanent ink, permanent gold ink, that obviously will be waterproof, which I hope will work with, I hope they both will work, well the calligraphy ink will definitely work with my dip pens, but I'm hoping that the I know the permanent one will as well. The other acrylic paints I was hoping to use with dotting tools, which, you know, you might have seen people use to make dot mandalas on rocks and other objects. And I tried that, I dabbled with it, it's quite fun. But it wasn't really me. And of course I've since got rid of my acrylic paints. Naturally, I don't hoard things. If I don't use them often enough, then I will just decide, or if I decide I don't like them, I will get rid of them. And then 6 months down the line, I realise I shouldn't have. Nature of art. There we go. So we've got these here. I will do just, I'm not quite sure how I want to, I think I want to shadow these underneath more than anything else. So I've got things that would be under, like so. So let me just do those. Most of that darkness right next to it, but I'm going to just bring some down. See there, I've got some to activate. Just drag it down so I've got a gradient. No harsh lines really, if I can help it. That's why you move my brush in a circular pattern. That's probably not recommended, but hey. I work on the theory, if it works for me, if it gives me the effect or the finish I like, then that's good enough for me. You know? It's not like I'm using super expensive pens. Not as cheap as they used to be, but I'm not quite sure how easy they are to get hold of now in the UK. Because of events that have gone on. There we are. So that's already bringing life into this. So I'm going to leave that one there, and I'm going to head towards these beautiful Kuretake Gansai paints. I did take the lid off. I'm going to keep the palette out. I am going to pop them on this side. I think I'm not going to take the pans out to use, but I do think here I wouldn't mind using, there's a colour in here that's called saffron gold, is it? Saffron yellow. And it's this colour here. And this with the Mars yellow actually looks stunning together, in my opinion. So I'm picking some up here. And I know I'm going to need a fair amount. I'm also going to need a fair amount of water coming out of this brush. There we go, we've got water now. I don't know if you can see how opaque it appears here. Yet, it's not that opaque either. And the lighter it gets down towards the end here, the more translucent it is, obviously, because there's less pigment in it. These paints are vegetarian. I think they're vegan, which makes me very happy. I checked that because I only try to buy products that are vegetarian or vegan. Well, if they're vegan, they're vegetarian. So vegetarian or vegan. Cruelty free. I don't think they test art materials on animals, thank goodness. If they do, I'll be disgusted to find out. And then this colour over here, this is Mars Yellow, and it's a lovely rusty browny colour. And if you know me, you know how much I love my rusty browny oranges. Because to me, they are just fabulous. And this goes so well with that saffron yellow. May just need to add a little bit more of it, just to bring the colour in. So the colours are beautiful in this. I'm not saying you have to go out and buy this, by the way. Use whatever supplies you have, because it matters not. It's whatever you're comfortable with. It's just that I'm forever trying things out. And this colour palette, it's a colour palette that's sorted for me. It's made for me. These gems, I really fancy them being blue. And I've got these lovely blues here. I'll just move this over. See this colour here? It's absolutely beautiful. It is called Cobalt Turquoise Light. And as I've just gone and put it in the lid, I won't be able to tell you that again. It really is a beautiful, beautiful blue colour. And just put some of it in here. Pick some of it up, because that was a bit too much of the pigment, I think. But it's okay. Because that here is what we have brushes and tissue for. I'll add a little bit more here, because I could do with a bit more around the edges. I'm trying not to get the colour onto my pen lines, because I know it will dry a little bit on the chalky side. You can see that the shadowing is showing through, which I think is blooming marvellous. I love this colour, I really do. I'm not often a fan of blues, but this is such a lovely, it's a happy blue, isn't it? It's make you smile blue. I'll add just a little bit more. These may dry a bit patchy with edges, and you know what? I'm just going to let it happen as it needs to happen. I'm even going to add some more colour in places, just dot it in and let it spread as it needs to spread, because that's part of the fun of watercolour. And what texture I have there is the texture I have. That needs to dry. Now, connecting these, I'm tempted to use blue, but I'm not going to. I think I may use, this colour, oh, you can't see it. This is pea green, and I think I'll use that, and just that colour. I am going to have to do each one of these individually, and you might see I've got some over the pen there, and it's dulling it down just that little bit, but it's okay. Just going to add a bit more colour to this one. If it dulls it down, that's okay. I'll try and go over it with the pen once it's dry, obviously. Very dry. That was a tiny gap there. These are well used brushes now, so the tips aren't as sharp as or pointy as they used to be sharp. Perhaps I'll vary the greens around the sides, so perhaps these ones could be a different green, perhaps, maybe. You might be prudent just to go right the way across, so at least all of these look the same. This one I think good to go that green. That is actually, this green is lovely over that grey when it's very translucent. Makes a lovely colour. So perhaps I will just pick some of this up with a brush. Just dab it off. That lovely colour there, and with this one I'm just going to go along the middle and try to move the colour towards the end, because that's where I'd want the colour. It actually works. So do I want to use this colour again? No, but I'm going to use a green gold, which looks like a yucky brown, but it is actually a lovely greeny gold colour. This speaks to me so much of Art Nouveau in some ways. In fact, the whole palette does, but just so wonderful. Genius, whoever came up with this colour palette, it's great. Now it makes me think, leave it a couple of months till I get the other Gansai Tambis. And one more grey. Green. I've got this green or a grey green. Let's go with this green. No, it's blue, that one is. This green. That's the grey green, I think. Yeah, it is. It'll be fine. Got greens and blues here. Once it's dry, I can always come back in with more paint if I want. So I'm likely to have to go back to this one with some more of this saffron yellow. No, it wasn't saffron yellow, was it? It was pea green. It's okay. My paper's not playing very well here, but it'll be good enough for me for this, I think. So that's okay, that looks quite good. And I'll leave the rest. Is it 1 hour and 1 minute? Okay, let's have a look at a couple of these sections. I'd like to use these lovely pinks and purples. I can't remember what this one is called. I've got the lid underneath, but it's a lovely, soft, dusky, kind of pinky colour that reminds me of faded or Victorian velvet, I suppose. I think it's a mauve colour. I will check. I will take the lid off. Again, I'm just adding colour or water in just to create some deliberate texture in this. So I think that will work well. Let me just take this out and I'll tell you what colour it is. It is mauve taupe. Yeah. And I'm now using old mauve, which I'll put in another section. This is more of a bluey mauve colour, or purpley. It's more of a red mauve or a pink mauve. I haven't put any shadow in these, have I, these sections? That's because I intend to fill them with pattern, and however they turn out to be nice. And then I've got alizarin crimson, which is an interesting reddish colour. Hopefully I wasn't off the screen then when I added the old mauve, the purpley one. This is a lovely kind of pinky red. That off and we'll go back and just add some drops of water in. And I'm getting lovely watermarks now, and I like that. I'm going to have to learn to embrace these things, so if I do it deliberately, then I've made a point, haven't I? I've used the lovely blue there. How about if I use this? This blue is greyish blue, so it's going to be a slightly different colour, but I think it'll work well here next to some of them. You can see how light these colours can go as well, which pleases me. And just dabbing the brush, water from the end of the brush in, and just letting it spread and create those lovely water damaged look. What other colour would I like next to that pink? This is Potter's Pink, which is kind of a blush-ish pink. Now these colours you can mix, but I'm not very good at mixing colours, and I'm not very good at combining colours, so I'm trying to work. I'm learning bit by bit, but I'm keeping these fairly monochrome, so it's a bit more like stained glass than anything else. Then I've got coral pink, which I'll do in this one, which is a much deeper kind of, it's more pinky. Just pick up a bit more of that and just add some the colour here and there. Again, just to get that interesting texture going. So let me do some of the Mars orange. I think I'll do that. Mars yellow, sorry. Down here, it's wonderful colour. I just love it. If this was the only colour in this set I liked, I'd be well happy with this set. Which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But it's true. That is just such a lovely, lovely colour. I do want to intensify it a bit at the top just to get that lovely orange rustiness in there. Perhaps a couple of little spots at the bottom where it's still damp, just to get that interest going, and some dots of water as well, just to help create texture and pattern. Okay, so put a Venetian red here. It's not my favourite one, but I think it will. It's a way of using it, using them, showing you the colours. I may not show you all the colours, but we can certainly get some of them going here. It's more of a reddy brown colour. It's not red, it's not brown, it's not purple, it's a funny colour. Is it? Oh yeah, Venetian red. So we've got that happening. This is yellow brown, and I am going to put this in the tiny area here because it's not a favourite colour, but it'd be nice to get some in. And then I've used grey green up there, didn't I? I've used ivy green, I've used pea green, I've used shadow green, have I? No, I haven't used shadow green. Some in here. This is lovely. I've used billiard green. This one here is billiard green. This is shadow green, which is absolutely lovely. Fir trees. That's what that reminds me of, but it's so lovely. Okay. I've used billiard green. I haven't used cobalt green. Or did I? No, I haven't. So put some cobalt green in here. This is a lovely one as well. It's a turquoise green. I've used cobalt turquoise light. I haven't used pale aqua, which I will pop just in here. What I haven't done is I didn't put any dots of water in these ones just to create a texture. But I will. Just like that. That actually worked really well. Okay, and then I just need one more. Oh, vermilion is, well, two more. Vermilion is howling pink. Howling yellowy or orangey red. I think I might use this one, which is ecru beige, which is a lovely creamy kind of colour. So again, I'll just come back and add some dots of water there. And the last one I'll use flax beige, which really does look like linen, raw linen. When linen's not been bleached or dyed, or perhaps lightly bleached. It's a lovely colour. So those are most of the colours there. I think the only one I haven't used is, I haven't used greyish blue. Yes, I did. I used it there, didn't I? It's only the vermilion, I think, and beige grey, because I used yellow brown. I mean beige grey. So it's looking quite good, isn't it? Lovely colours, even if I say so myself. Okay, pop those out the way, get my Inktense pencil out the way. I'm going to use, I've got an 03 pen here. I haven't done anything with these sections, have I? Do you know what? I think I'm going to leave them just as they are. And I'm going to use this 03 pen to add some pattern to the backgrounds here. I'm going to fill the pattern, these sections up with little, almost like little bricks, rounded bricks or squares or little circles. So rather than circles like you get with the Tangle pattern tipple, I'm just using rectangular shapes or oblong shapes, squarish shapes. I'm just making sure the corners are nicely rounded and having them sort of going in the shape that would mimic the shape of this section. If you, I don't know if you know what I mean there, but arranging them so that they work with this shape, not against it. I like that. Now this, I could come back and add more colour. I do need to come back and just fill in little spaces where I've got little bits of greyness showing through. But I might come back and add some gold. You never know. And so I can do that with all of these sections. I'm just going to start this one. Won't finish it. It doesn't matter if they don't slot together exactly, or if there's similar ones side by side, or if they're not the same width. It's just whatever you can get to fit together. Don't overthink it, don't sweat it, just do it. If you want to make it perfect, you draw grid lines in or pencil lines in and use those. But I'm not aiming for perfection here, I'm aiming for the imperfection we find in nature's perfection, as it were. As I said that, I had a flashback to an awful dream I had. It involved whales. So sad. Yeah. But having bizarre dreams lately. Very peculiar. I think it's the side effect of the antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds that I'm on. More than anything. I just hope it's a sign that my unconscious mind, or my subconscious mind, whichever term you prefer, is working on stuff from the past and other things. Very, very bizarre dreams. Sometimes I just wake up with a feeling that I've had a bizarre dream, and other times I remember bits of the dream. Sometimes I remember the entirety of it. Very strange. So this is going on well past an hour now. I hope you don't mind. You can see how that just makes that difference, and it really, really is helping with getting things looking down. What I may do is see about adding some shadow on the edges here, so it makes this feel like these are bending and curling round in that kind of direction. These are so much fun. I've got to do something with them. And I think I may do something similar to what I've done there, but this time I'm just going to create sections across. Now doing this on top of the paint works really nicely actually, because I've got no fear here now of using the paint and dulling down the ink lines, which is great. So for this one I could do something different. I think what I might do here is draw in some long thin rectangles like this. And these sections in between I'm just going to fill with black. I quite like using the black, I think. It gives that contrast between the soft colours and the the harshness or the darkness of the black. And that creates an interesting, just a simple pattern. Nothing more, nothing less. This one, I'm going to have to fill this with overlapping circles, the tangle pattern perk. Well, how part of perk is done anyway. These corners, we can have little ones there. And then I'll go this way till I fill this section. Like so. That just adds something interesting there. This one, I can see there's some lovely, lovely fine droplets there. And what I'm going to do, I've got an 01 pen here. So I'm using Unipin pens from Uniball here. I've got a mixture of pens, it's whatever I feel like. But I can see these little water droplets, so I'm going to use the 01 to outline them all and make them the textural pattern. If I miss some, I don't mind, because some of them are very slight and some I may have to make up. Let me just put one there, perhaps one there, and one there. Just a random kind of filling pattern, which looks quite nice. This one is much more visible, and I am so tempted. Pen went straight to them. I'm trying to stay outside the white, go around the, not just the white, but there's a watercolour edge here. But I don't think I can actually keep that separate still. So by using the water and creating these textures, I'm automatically creating some patterns for me to make use of here. Again, where there are little gaps where you think you could put some in, you could just put them in. Nobody's going to notice. Nobody's going to go and doubly check. It is what it is, like so. You get the idea. This channel here, I'm going to fill in with lots of tiny black lines, very close together, and just to give that darkness and hopefully that feeling that this section here is below the rest. May work, it may not, but it's certainly a border and edge. You can see there's still a lot of work to do on this particular artwork here. Sorry, I think I was off the screen then. So it's going to take me quite a while to finish this. The other thing I want to do, because this may end up being another piece that is a test piece, and again I'm just going to go into my pencil case. I've got two white gel pens. One of them is this one, which is it's a Pentel hybrid pen, and this has got pigment ink in, and it's a 1.0mm ball, so it's a medium pen. And this one is a Pilot, and it's Choose, and it's 0.7, and again it's white pigment ink in here, which means this is actually waterproof or water resistant, unlike the Sakura jelly rolls, which is why I had to go at these. So I'm going to use this to bring out, hopefully if I can get it to work, back of the hand, always works. And this will bring out these areas in a much more subtle way. In fact, I think I wish I'd done the other sections with this, because I think it would have been more subtle than the black. And it is very subtle, but it works. But I can use it then to put little dots down the black there, because it is very stark. And I quite like it, but I think that's quite nice as well. And what I may do with these, I'm tempted to actually fill them in with white, or put white in the middle of these ones at least, just to increase that contrast. Yep, I'm covering up the colour. Remember, I use those little dots as a way of creating this pattern more than showing the difference in colour that's there, because it's quite subtle. So white's gone in there. And then this one, I've got gold, but I've also got a silver one. Silver ones are these. These are, again, it's Pentel, the hybrid dual metallic. And they're different colours on dark colour and light colour. And they've got quite a fine tip on them, fine point. I'm going to go with gold because that's what my go-to is. So I'm going to just fill these in with gold, but I will use the gold elsewhere. This is not permanent. I'm not going to try and use acrylic ink for this because I'd be a nightmare with it. I may just have to use gel pens for the rest of my days, but at least I'm going to try again. So that adds some nice shine. You can see there, it's actually really shiny. It's very, very fine glitter. And I could do that in some of these, where I could add some of the gold or silver, but I'm not sure about that. That could be overkill. This section, I love it so much, I think I'm going to leave as it is. And some of these I might leave. I love the way that I've got the water texture in there. And I don't want to do anything to that really, unless I, just put some simple lines in so it still shows through. But I'm not really sure. But hour and 22 minutes, oops. Oops, didn't realise. Time flies when you're enjoying yourself, doesn't it? But I think you get the idea here. And I'm going to carry on with this. I may carry on with this for a bit longer now while the video's processing and uploading and everything. And when I finished it, I certainly will share it with you. The sample sheet, the trial sheet here, let me just say this one. And I'll zoom out as well, because that way you'll get to see the whole of that. It's looking quite good, isn't it? It's not too shabby. And that gold is fab. Yeah. I'm really impressed with that, actually. Might be my favourite gold gel pen now. Let's hope that Pentel don't stop making them, because they're really lovely. This one is now going to be let's see what happens if sheet, and keeping a track of things. So I can do things on here rather than mess up something like this. And who knows, at the end of it all, it might actually be something quite interesting. Except for the writing on it and these blobs of a different gold on the gold. Yeah, it's acrylic gold paints, but it's showing through. I coloured them black in the middle and didn't like it because I didn't like the colours underneath. So, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a go at something like this. And remember that once you've added the colour, you can always add the pattern afterwards. Once you've got the bare bones in, it's fine to do that, which is what I'm doing. So until I see you again, take care, look after yourselves, and please find time to be creative. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye for now. Bye. Hoyo. Ta-ra.